These are footage I recorded back in February or March, and I finally have some time to edit now. My nephew wanted to build a gaming PC and he planned to get one with an RTX 3050 because his neighbor friend bought one. His budget was around $600, so I told him to buy used parts so that we can get some cheaper but better components. Of course, there could be some risk, but buying used also means no sales tax. Even though I gave him extra parts, my plan was keeping all the main component costs around $600. First was the most expensive, the GPU. It came in a Gigabyte 4070 Super box, but it was an MSI 3070. I got this for $285 on hardware swap, but if I waited longer to shop around, I could have saved extra, but I was busy and did not have much time. After a bit cleaning on the fans, the card looked really nice. The next components I bought were an EVGA G3 850W gold power supply and 32GB of RAM combo for $90 on Facebook Marketplace. The RAM speed is 3000 MHz CL15 and there were 4 white sticks to populate the motherboard. Few hours later, after getting the PSU and RAM, I got the Ryzen 5 5600X on Craigslist for $60, which was a really good deal. The chip is pretty good for gaming and easy to cool, and could still be upgraded in the future if he wants. For motherboard, I went with the MSI Pro B550M-VC WiFi for $100 from eBay with tax included. This board could also be bought brand new on MSI store for an extra $10, but I just wanted to keep it as cheap as possible. According to the seller, this was a new open box, but I believe it was already used based on the dust particles. It was also missing the M.2 screw for the bottom NVMe drive, but I had a few lying around from other motherboards, so no problem. I gave my nephew my Western Digital Black 512GB drive as the OS drive. Even though I knew the bottom slot of the board was using the chipset PCIe lane, so it is not as fast, it is not possible to notice. The bottom slot is not easy to access as it is blocked by the graphic card, and the top slot will be used with a cheap 112GB NVMe for extra storage, so it will be easier for my nephew to replace the cheap drive whenever he wants in the future. I also gifted him these two drives for storing games. First was the 1TB Samsung A70 QVO which I got from Hardware Swap. Then we have a brand new 500GB SanDisk Ultra from wood.com for just $27. For CPU heatsink, I got an ID cooling cooler and extra 3 RGB fans for a total of $32. We are using a Ryzen 5 5600X, so these are quite overkill, but having more fans mean lower speed, so less noise. Lastly, I gifted him a set of cable mod sleeve cables for the EVGA PSU. This makes managing cables easier and the system look better. Let's summarize the most essential PC parts that can complete the system. We have the CPU at $60, the GPU at $285, RAM at $30, PSU at $60, motherboard at $100, fans and heatsink at $32, and one 500GB SSD at $27. All of these came out to be $594, which was around the targeted budget. Of course, we still don't have one thing, which is the case. I could not buy it for him as I traveled back to my country back in May. Due to a 2-hour delay, I missed my connecting flight and it added extra 10 hours to the trip. I had to lay over at Hong Kong airport instead of Taiwan, but man, the view of the airport when taking off was beautiful. I told him to order a Lian Li A3 as this is one of the smallest ATX cases. Plus, having a smash panel also helps with the temperature. But my nephew was similar to me in procrastination, so the case was out of stock everywhere. Instead, he opted for the ASUS Prime AP201 with a tempered glass panel. I am not a fan of a bigger case, and tempered glass feel outdated to me. But with the components we chose, temperature should not be an issue. After landing in my country, I headed to his home to help him build a PC right away. It was a bad idea as I was so exhausted. After managing the cables, I could only install one comb on the 24-pin power cables and told him to handle the rest before heading home. I never had a chance to check the system again or see it booting, but for some miracles, it was working fine. To my credit, I already pre-installed Windows 11 plus all the necessary drivers and applications. My nephew uses a 1080p monitor, so the Ryzen 5 5600X and the RTX 3070 combo should have no issue with modern titles. Of course, with newer games, we still need to rely on DLSS and frame gen. But my boy just moved from a PC with an Intel Core Duo 2, so he still has more than a decade worth of games to catch up, such as Creed, GTA 4 and 5, Spider-Man games, and I completely filled the 1TB SSD with my favorite games. Before going back, I benchmarked a few games to test the system's capabilities. The first one was Marvel Spider-Man 2. At 1080p, DLSS and FSR3 frame generation were enabled. Graphics settings were kept at high, except ray trace shadow at medium, as I think it was not noticeable. We got around 90 to 100 FPS even though I felt the game was not as optimized as Spider-Man 1 or Miles Morales. However, I did put the GPU to my personal PC and played at 1440p resolution, and the RTX 3070 had no problem handling this game. Next is The Witcher 3 with ray tracing. For this game, I installed a mod that lets us use FSR frame generation. This made the game playable with all the ray tracing options enabled. Without this mod, even my RTX 3090 had trouble with pushing the frame rate to 50. The graphics settings were kept at high to ultra, and the FPS of the game was around 90 to 100 at 1080p. Similar to The Witcher 3, I used the same mod to enable FSR frame gen for Cyberpunk. Ray tracing settings were turned on with ray trace lighting at medium. Path tracing was disabled as this card would not be sufficient even with the mod. All the graphics settings were kept at high. We had the FPS hover around 70 to mid 80. Also, the temperature of the CPU and GPU were both very good on the makeshift open-air test bench. The hotspot of the card was only 67 degrees, and inside the case, I had two bottom fans that actively provide fresh air to the card, so I expected its temperature could be similar. With inflation and ridiculous prices of new graphic cards, which turn MSRP into good deals, buying used PC parts not only allows us to save money, but also get similar or better performance than buying new. If my nephew didn't listen to me and went for a new PC in my country, the same amount of money would not let him grab a 3070, maybe a 3060 if he was lucky. After the nice vacation, it has been quite difficult to work on this video as I was busy with job and lazy of course, but life outside of YouTube has been great. Anyway, I ordered a Ryzen 9 9950X 3D months ago to upgrade my main PC, but MSI delayed their release of the A70 RTX motherboard till October instead of August. If I get my hand on that board next month and MSI doesn't screw up, I'll make a new video of my PC upgrade. Stay tuned.